and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Shireen Bhan. In the 60s, British motorcycle enthusiasts used a special motorcycle to sprint between cafes. The trend caught on in Italy, France and other European countries. In fact, it became part of the rocker subculture of the 60s and 70s. Royal Enfield, which is now an Indian brand, is hoping to recreate the magic of the cafe racer. We first saw what it could be like at the Auto Expo in 2010, and now the cafe racer Continental GT is all set to hit Indian roads. Stumi gets you this iconic first ride.
The Ace Cafe used to be at the edge of London, and this is where the speed limits ended. So what used to be a basic truck stop has gone on to become probably the most iconic biker cafe in the world. Today I'm at Ace Cafe, and with me I have the Continental GT, which is Royal Enfield's new cafe racer. Now, in the same way that the Ace Cafe became the biker cafe to reckon with, the Continental GT represents a lot of change. So the cafe racer format, it's been done before, but at Royal Enfield it means a lot more than that.
The problem with making a motorcycle to a pad is that there is little room to maneuver, and adding the one little detail that crafts the design is always a terrifying possibility. So a cafe racer is easy because it is understood, recognizable and known, and on the other hand very hard to design because it is such a set template of proportion and detail. Full credit must go to Royal Enfield because the Continental GT looks gorgeous from some angles and correct from others. Its appeal at the launch was well documented, and I have no doubt that it will be, when it goes on sale, one of the most evocative, wonderful looking motorcycles on the Indian market.
One of the things I really like about the cafe racer is the amount of attention to detail that somebody has put into the motorcycle. The bar and mirrors, for example, are extremely well finished. It's really unfortunate that the CMBR rules don't permit Royal Enfield to sell these mirrors as stock in India, and they would have if it wasn't for that. So currently you'll get stock mirrors, but you'll be able to buy those and add them to your motorcycle. Similarly, the way the seat cowl is finished, a lot of details which could have been very complicated or fussy, and they're not, and they're very simple and kept honest and true to the cafe racer format. If Royal Enfield can do this kind of detail work on their other motorcycles, they will all benefit from, just the improvement in your perceived quality of the product.
But motorcycles, no matter how pretty, are almost entirely useless when they are not out chasing the horizon. So let's get out on the British motorways and see what the Continental GT is made of.
Now, cafe racers work quick motorcycles, and to that end what Royal Enfield have done is they've taken this engine, turned it into a 535cc engine. The inlet valves, they're bigger, and therefore the engine breathes better. And finally they've lightened the crank so it spins up a little bit quicker. So it's not significantly more powerful than your regular 500cc engine. It makes 29.1 PS and 44 Nm of torque. But what you immediately sense when you ride the bike is that it revs up quicker. It has a sense of less stress when you're going to go flat out. And people saw as much as 145 kilometers an hour yesterday on the motorway. It was difficult, there is still vibration, but what is interesting is that the engine doesn't seem to notice the strain quite as much as before.
Also interesting is that Royal Enfield never tried out a 17-inch wheel prototype during the development of the GT, which I think is a missed opportunity, especially in foreign markets where 17-inch wheels allow a far greater choice of tires. What the Continental GT is in final form, let's be clear, is extremely well equipped. While there were not many fast corners thanks to Britain's obsession with speed cameras, it was clear that the Continental GT might seem longer and slower in feel than current middleweight motorcycles, but it turns quicker than all of the other Royal Enfields. Ride quality similarly reminds of the other bikes, but is clearly a notch or two better over both sharp bumps and undulations.
Traditionally, Royal Enfield has been extremely reluctant to mess with the chassis because, well, if it's not broken, then why fix it? But when they did the cafe racer, they knew that they had to reach a new level of ride quality and handling for the cafe racer to be what it needed to be. So what they did was they brought in Harris Performance, and in the process what they've got is something amazing. It's a completely new chassis, it's a new platform, and what it has primarily is this. This is one of the two tubes now, so it's a double down tube cradle frame. In fact, when I was speaking to Siddharth Lal yesterday after the press conference, he actually referred to it as reminiscent of the feather bed. Very interesting idea there. But So here you have a double down tube frame, the engine sits in it, you've got completely new forks, aluminium wheels, disc brakes front and rear. So it's probably the best equipped Royal Enfield you can buy on the market when it comes out a couple of months from now. But it is certainly the best chassis they've produced so far.
However, those looking for a comfortable motorcycle need to understand that cafe racers were not about comfort as much as they were about speed. And this means rear set pegs, a basic seat and low bars. Not the most comfortable riding position in the world. That being said, this is a better chassis and RE's new platform from which I expect the benefits to accrue to their other models in time. We spoke to Siddharth Lal to understand the background to the development of the Continental GT.
Our focus and energy in the last 6 months, 1 year was very much on the Continental GT. We have done a lot of improvements. We've put up a full new plant. We've put up a lot of new things. So there's a lot of developmental work going on in our factory, and in order to also make sure that the bikes are really up to the standard. But you will see improvements, and you will see all these developments going down as well. In this particular motorcycle, we've got a lot of bits and bobs from around the world. So we have even parts coming, like our aluminium wheel rims are coming from overseas. We have, of course, our Keihin fuel injection system from Japan, our Denso starter motor from Japan. We have the Paoli shocks from Italy. We have Brembo brakes from Italy. We got the Pirellis are not from Italy. They're actually from Brazil, from their Brazil plant, and a lot of other sort of stuff which I can't even remember now. But there is a lot of parts which are coming from overseas because we wanted to go to the absolute best suppliers to make sure that, you know, the confidence on this product is there in markets around the world. We've finally discovered ourselves. We've discovered what we want to do. We've discovered what place we want to take in motorcycling in the future, and that's really that's in the first instance, that's we want to be the leading mid-size motorcycle player in the world, and we want to bring a brand of motorcycling, a type of motorcycling which is very different. It's not only about performance. It's about a holistic approach to motorcycling. It's about much more evocative style of motorcycling, and that's really where the fundamentals start. And of course, in order to accomplish that, we need to make motorcycles which are consistent with our brand, but which will also encompass a larger part of the mid-size motorcycling. So we are going to have more models, we're going to have more platforms, and that's all going to come in the future. But right now we want to just focus our energies back on our Continental GT, because that's, we believe, the future. That's the bike which will hopefully help us in making a breakthrough in all of these markets, and then it'll pave the way for more and more motorcycles to come in the future. But India gets to actually buy the motorcycle this year for sure. So, but it's really a matter of only of logistics now, because the bike is ready. It's the same bike which is going across the world by and large, other than some minor variations because of emission norms or other such norms. It's the same bike, and really it's a matter of production and logistics. So we're producing bikes. The first batches of bikes that we're producing are coming to Europe. The next batches are going to US, Australia, Japan and other such countries. And finally, India is going to be served. But it's all out of, you know, it's all in the same sort of scheme of things.
So we're back at the Ace Cafe. It's time to return the motorcycle and time for you guys to start waiting. They did launch the motorcycle yesterday in the United Kingdom. I told you 50 to 100 pounds here. But when it comes to India, the price, well, I'm expecting 2.5 lakh rupees. But the bigger issue will be for you guys that Royal Enfield is not planning to sell this motorcycle immediately in India. They're saying it's the biggest market. They need it to be stabilized, and production needs to fall into place. And that means the motorcycle will come to India before the end of the month, but a date has not yet been announced. Time for me to go back home, enjoy some coffee. Time for you to start waiting to buy the Continental GT.
There's nothing like the Continental GT in India or even globally, so it will certainly solidify Royal Enfield's mass cult following and further cement its niche positioning. It will, of course, take about 2 months before you can see that bike on Indian roads. On that note, it is time for us to take a break. When we return, Bert answers your queries on Auto Selector, and we wrap